Hi and welcome to episode 30 of the FROSTBITES podcast. My name is Minna and I'm coming to you from northern Finland as usual. This is my podcast about knitting and sewing and other crafts that I get into. And today I have some exciting news for you. I have just published my new wrap pattern, my Dolomiti wrap, which I'm going to tell you in a little bit. But before, I have a few FOs, finished objects, today. I have a couple of works in progress. I have some sewing finished objects, some new yarn and new fabric. I will also talk briefly about Jyväskylä Knit Festival, which was a few weeks ago already, but I haven't had time to podcast after that. And I also tell you about my wonderful trip to northern Italy, where I had a photo shoot for my new patterns. So let's get started. Okay, we will start with my Dolomiti wrap. I just published the pattern on Ravelry yesterday. Thank you to everybody who already had a look and sent their comments and likes on my way. I really appreciate it, and it's quite nerve-wracking and exciting to publish a pattern because there's a lot of work that goes into it before it's ready for publishing, and it's always nerve-wracking to see if anyone likes what you have made. So I have shown you the wrap before once already in my previous episode, but I will show you again and tell you a little more about the details of it. So it's a rectangular wrap. It's a very long one, over 2 meters long, and it's a gradient with 3 different colors or shades of pink. The yarn I used was dyed by my friend in Italy, Woolly Tizzy. Tiziana has dyed this gradient set for me, and in the pattern photos you will see her version, which is a gorgeous green version of the wrap. And she also made some modifications to her wrap, so I will share about that in a little bit. So the way you knit the wrap is that you start not exactly in the middle, but almost. If this is the middle of the wrap, you start right here where the lace panel starts. You start with a provisional cast on. There is a link to a video tutorial in the pattern, so if you haven't used that cast on method before, fear not. It's a very easy one. And there are several ways that you can use to do that. And the link is just to one version, and you can easily Google for more if you find it difficult to use a crochet hook or whatever. So you start from the provisional cast on, you start working on the lace. The lace pattern is very easy and intuitive. I suggest you use stitch markers between the repeats, so it's very easy to also to check and make sure that you haven't made a mistake. And after the lace pattern, you introduce the other color, the second color, and blend it in with the first one in garter stitch, or mostly garter. There are some stockinette bits there as well. And then you drop the first color and only work with the second color. The second lace pattern, which is exactly the same as the first one, and then you introduce the third color, do the garter stitch panel, and then the final lace pattern in the third color only. And there's a seed stitch border on each edge all around. And once you have done the first half of the wrap, you then go back to the provisional cast on and pick up the stitches from there and work the other side of the wrap. And in the middle here there is the garter section with just one color, so that is the middle, actual middle of the wrap. And like I said, it's a really long one. And there are several ways you can wear it. You can just wrap it around your neck, which I think is the most casual look and the easiest. You can have it on your shoulders, or you can, I'm sure you can find many ways to wear it. What else? The yarn that I used, like I said, is from Dolomiti from Italy, and she has prepared or is preparing to dye some kits for the wrap. If you're interested, they will be 3 skein, 100 gram skein sets. So you get 1 skein for 20 euros, so the whole kit will be 60 euros plus shipping. And she has several color options. You can choose this one, which is the, do I remember it correctly? It's Italian, which I don't speak. Fiori di montagna, the mountain flowers. And then the green one, which you can see in the pattern photos with in Tizi's wrap, is called sottobosco, which means the undergrowth in the forest. Also a gorgeous colorway, and she has other colors as well. So you can, she doesn't have an Etsy shop or a web shop, but you can easily contact her via direct message on Instagram. She's Woolly Tizi on Instagram, all one word, and you can ask her whether she would have a kit for you in your favorite color. And yeah, so please do head over to Tizi's Instagram account and have a look. She has some photos of the green colorway, as well as some other yarns that she has dyed before. And I'm sure she will post photos of more gradient kits when she has them. What else? So, but you can of course use any kind of fingering weight yarn. I suggest single ply fingering weight, and you can find all the details, how much yarn and that sort of thing, on the pattern page in Ravelry. And like I said, Tizi knit hers in the green colorway, and she modified it so that she has one more lace repeat in the width, so it's a bit wider, and then she left one lace repeat out of each lace pattern, so it's a bit shorter. And I think that, and you can find all the measurements for that modification in the pattern page and also in the pattern. if you want to make that that version. The actual pattern is written for this version though, but it's easy to modify. And I think if I have time, I would love to knit another one in a different color and to make it a little bit wider and shorter. So that is my Dolomiti wrap, and I hope you like it, and I hope that you enjoy knitting it if you decide to purchase it on Ravelry. And then I have another pattern coming up really soon, which I thought that I would share already. It might take a week or so until I have everything ready for publishing, but I thought that I would share this pattern at the same time as well. So I have designed a pair of socks, which I also briefly showed you in my previous episode, I think in green. It was a test for the pattern in a different yarn, but the pattern was designed for this yarn. And this yarn is, I have another skein here in green. This is Petrichor yarns in her sock, which is superwash merino 75%, superwash merino and 25% nylon. And Petrichor yarns is a Finnish dyer, and she came up with these two colorways for the socks. And when I was designing this pair, I was looking at photos from Italy. I was going to travel to meet Tiziana, and I was looking at photos from the city of Verona, which is a city quite close to Venice, and that's a city where we went to stay for a couple of days with Tiziana. And I was looking through the history and whatever information I could find about the city, and I also found out that it's the city of Romeo and Juliet. And I started thinking about Juliet and what kind of socks she would wear if she would wear handmade woolen socks. And this is what I came up with. It's a lacy pattern, and it might be easier to see the pattern if I put it on the blocker this way. So there you can see the lace pattern. It looks complicated, but it's really not that complicated. If you have knitted a little bit of lace before, you can certainly do this. In the pattern, there's a chart, and there is also a written instruction for the chart part. So I suppose if you don't like charts, you can still read the pattern. And I knitted these with 2.5mm needles with 59 stitches. So that might give you an idea of the size. And there's also a larger size, which is 63 stitches. Yes, right. 60. No, 58 and 62 stitches. Anyway, 2 different sizes for the circumference of your foot, and then you can of course modify the length of the foot and also the length of the cuff. It's a top-down sock starting from the cuff, and there's a heel flap, some short rows and a gusset, and then in the end, after the decreases, you kitcheneer the toe. And twisted ribbing at the back. What else? Slip stitches in the heel flap. And yeah, that's how they look like. And I'm really, really pleased with how they came out. And I suggest that you choose a sock yarn that is not very much more speckled or variegated than these yarns, because the pattern easily gets lost if you use more variegated yarn. And why I have this green yarn is because I'm doing a giveaway. Johanna from Petrico Yarns was so sweet that she sent me this extra skein for a giveaway, and I will have a thread in Ravelry group, FROSTBITES Podcast group, and you will find the prompt in there as well. Maybe something about traveling, I think, and answer the question that you find there, and I will randomly pick one winner who will win this skein of yarn and the pattern once it's published. And I will run the giveaway until the end of August. So, and if you have already purchased my sock pattern by then, you can choose another pattern if you want to. So I will donate primarily the sock pattern to go with this, but if you already have that pattern, because I'm probably going to publish the pattern before the end of this giveaway, you can choose another one from my Ravelry shop. So go over to my Ravelry group and leave a comment to the giveaway thread for a chance to win this beautiful yarn and the pattern. So that's all the design news. Then I guess we can move on to my other finished projects. I have another sock pair that I have started and finished since my last episode. So you haven't seen these while I was working on them. These are a pair of socks I knitted out of Retrosarja Mondim sock yarn, which is Portuguese yarn from Rosa Pomar in Lisbon. And the colorway is 205. It's this pink and white speckly variegated yarn, and it's a 100% Portuguese wool. There's no nylon, so it's plastic free, and I was really curious about this yarn because I had seen many other knitters already try it, and I like the fact that there's no plastic in it. So I wanted to try it out, how it feels like to knit, and also how well it would wear because I'm quite hard on my socks, so I'm not sure if I really would need the nylon, but we'll see. I haven't worn these yet, so I think in a couple of months I will be wiser about it. This is just my basic vanilla sock, top down. This time I made a little bit longer ribbing on the cuff. I usually do just 12 rows, and here I think I did 20 rows. Heel flap and gusset, just very basic. On the other sock, you can see here the color changes a bit. There was a knot in the yarn, and it continued like from another spot, so you can see there is a stripe, but it doesn't bother me. They are still very much a pair, and they're just basic socks, so I don't mind if there is a little change in color. And this is how much I have left. It's not quite enough for another pair of this size, but I think if I made heels, cuffs and toes in another yarn, it would be plenty. I got this yarn from Jyväskylä Knit Festival, so this is also part of my new yarn section. And I might as well show you the other yarns that I got from Jyväskylä, now that we are on it. One skein is this Suoma single, Fincheap wool single ply, non-superwash, and this is colorway Flamingo. I already had a couple of, or actually 3 skeins of this before. These 3. And now this one. This is something I was just trying out the yarn. I'm not sure. I might just unravel this and make this into a shawl or a shirt, a sweater or something. I thought that these colors would go really well together. So this yarn is a new yarn from Finland. There is a yarn shop in Eastern Finland in Kuopio called Kässäkerho Pom Pom, and this is their own brand of yarn, and their new base is this Suoma single, which was launched officially at the Knit Festival in Jyväskylä this July, but they already had it in their shop in May when I visited, when I got the other skeins. And I was very curious to try out some single ply yarn from our local Fincheap breed, and it's really nice and soft, and I want to knit all kinds of things with this yarn. And I think the owner of the shop hand dyes these yarns herself. Really, really pretty. And these are 50-gram skeins, so actually I don't have enough for a sweater in these 4. But for a shawl, yes. I've been thinking about making the Vertices Unite by Stephen West for quite some time, and they had a sample in their booth, I think from this yarn, and it looks really nice. So who knows, maybe a Vertices Unite. Then I got also another Mondim sock yarn from Jyväskylä, and I have already started knitting on another pair in this yarn. Also very basic. The other one's finished already, and we decided to do a swap with my friend who I went to Jyväskylä with. So she bought this color skein, and she has already knitted one pair for herself. And when I'm finished with this ball or this pair of socks, I will give the rest of the yarn for her. So we are swapping the leftovers from these skeins with each other, so that we can try out different colors. And I don't know, do you think these would go together? Maybe. Maybe I could stripe these or make color blocks or something. So in a way I have 3 different colorways of the Mondim sock yarn now. So there was already one work in progress in there as well. And a couple of more yarns from Jyväskylä. I didn't buy a huge amount this time. But I really wanted to get the stripy ball from Petri Yarns. She hand winds these amazing stripy balls, and they are so delicious looking. And the one I got has grey and white stripes with pink and green and red or orange speckles. And yes, so that's her card or tag. And this is merino sock as well. And the colorway is called Fandango. And then finally from Jyväskylä, I actually didn't get this yarn with me because they didn't have enough because I wanted a sweater quantity. So they sent me this later. This is Tallive Yarns from Germany, I think. And this is British Masham and Blue-Faced Leicester in colorway Plum. And this is a 50-gram skein, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 skeins, I think, which should be enough for a sweater. And this is DK weight, I believe. So it will make, this is 120 meters per 50 grams, so that should make 240 meters per 100 grams. Also very nice, very soft feel to it, but still kind of this woolly wool that is very airy, lofty, and I love this color. It's not always pink I use. I have some other colors as well. So I'm interested to see how this knits up. I don't have a plan for this yet, but I'm sure some test knits will be coming on my way in the future, so I want to have some yarn ready to go if I need some DK weight yarn. I guess that's all from Jyväskylä, yarn-wise. I was volunteering at the festival on 3 different days. I worked Friday and Saturday, both days I worked for 4 hours, and then on Sunday I worked for 1 hour, I think, and I also had a class that I had bought for myself. So I didn't have heaps of time at the festival area, which was okay, but I didn't really have time to go to the podcaster meetings or any other social events that much, which was a bit of a shame because I would have loved to meet all the people who were there. But still, I had a really fantastic festival and I really enjoyed the atmosphere there. Very friendly and relaxed, and the weather was perfect. It was sunny, and I don't remember, I think it rained on one of the days, maybe Saturday or Friday, but I was volunteering at a class during that time, so I was inside. I only saw it through the window. But other than that, the weather was beautiful. It was just the start of the heat wave, I think, here in Finland. And then on Friday evening, I had booked a ticket to the Line cruise, which was a cruise on the lake in Jyväskylä, and it was organized by the festival and Line magazine. We had some good food. We were up on the deck on the 3rd floor of the cruise ship, and just we had wonderful people in our table and had a really nice chat with them. Had some dinner, and then towards the end of the cruise, Jonna from Line magazine interviewed some of the teachers who were at the festival teaching different classes. So there was Veera Välimäki, Nathan Taylor, who is known as the Sockmatician, and Melanie Berg, and Anna Johanna, who is known as Neulisti on Instagram, Isabel Kramer, maybe someone else who I now forget, and there were many other teachers as well. I think they all attended the cruise, but not everybody was interviewed. And the weather was just beautiful. It looked like it was going to start raining just as we were leaving from the harbor, and we were a bit worried because we were on the top deck and there was no shelter. But then the clouds just went away and sun came out, and it was just beautiful. And from there, I think the heat wave hit the Northern Europe as well. It's been everywhere in Europe, and it's been boiling hot, at least for us who haven't really gotten used to that kind of weather. It's been 32 on average for, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks or something. Not a single drop of rain until one day it rained for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening. It's been really dry and really hot, and it was almost impossible to knit. I have a pretty large test knit in DK weight yarn, but I just couldn't knit on it, not even every day, which I normally would have done, because it was just so hot late at night even. So I had all the doors and windows open once the sun went a bit more down it doesn't go down here in northern Finland. But there was no wind. The air was just standing still, and it was just so hot that I couldn't be knitting on the sweater. But now it's cooled down. I think this week I came home from Italy on Wednesday, and today is Saturday. So I've been here a couple of days and it's been really nice. It's been around 20, 25. Today it's below 20 degrees, I think, like a normal Finnish summer weather. It feels a bit like autumn already. Some of the trees have lost the leaves already because it's been so dry, and some of the leaves have turned yellow because of the drought, and that makes it feel like autumn is coming, even though I don't think this is yet autumn at all. I'm sure there will be some warm summer days ahead of us still. So last week I went to Italy to meet my friend Tiziana in northern Italy, in the Dolomites, in the mountain area. It was so wonderful to meet her and her family and just spend time together. We actually didn't knit much at all because it was also hot over there in Italy. We did a little bit of knitting, but not much. But we had so much fun with the photo shoots in the mountains for my Dolomiti wrap and my Adige socks. And oh, I think I forgot to tell you that the socks are called Adige, which is the river that runs through the city of Verona. And I also forgot to tell you the colorway names. So this colorway, the pink one in Petrichor yarns, is called Giulietta, spelled in the Italian way, and the green one is called Romeo. So there's Romeo and Giulietta, and I think Johanna also will have some other colorways as well. And once the pattern is published, she will have kits with the yarn and the pattern together. But you can also buy the pattern individually from Ravelry. I forgot to tell that before. So in Italy, I stayed a week in total, and for the first part of the week I stayed with Tiziana and her family in the Dolomites, in the most beautiful scenery that you can ever think. When you stepped out, it was dark when I arrived. My flight was to Venice, and she and her mother picked me up from the airport, and it took, I think, 2 hours or something to drive up to the mountains where she lives. And during that time it got dark, so I didn't know what kind of view there was when I arrived. It was really dark and it rained really hard when we got there, so it was only in the morning that I saw the surroundings. And once I got out of the house, and some people came to visit her mother, so we had a chat with them, and then I turned around while they were chatting, and I think I just said out loud, wow, because I could see the peaks of the mountains just behind the house. Oh, it was so beautiful. What can I say? on a couple of days we went up to the mountains. On first day we had a photo shoot for the wrap, and we walked, I think, about 13 kilometers or something, over 10 I think it was altogether, up in the mountains. And for me it was really hard because we were in 2,200 meters and above, I think, above sea level. And over here in Finland it's flat. We are almost at the sea level here. So, and going uphill on foot, quite steep hills for me at least, I was just out of my breath all the time. And I on the first break that we had walking up, I think my face was totally red when we started taking the first photos of the wrap, but I'm glad that it doesn't show in the pictures that well. So we walked around in the mountains. We stopped in several beautiful places on our walk to take photos of both of our wraps, and it was so much fun. And there were cows who were just walking around eating grass everywhere with their huge cowbells chiming around their neck. It was quite loud actually when there were several cows around. And we had lunch in this beautiful, what did they call them? They're like summertime farmhouses. Oh my goodness, I already forgot what they are called. I know Tiziana is yelling at me when she's watching this. No, I can't remember. Anyway, we had lunch in the mountains, and then we had a fair bit of walking to get back to the car. I actually got really motion sick when we were driving up the hills because the roads were just so windy, and with us here in Finland the roads are just quite straight and flat, and there you have the valleys and the mountains, and the road is just constantly like this. And I had probably during half of the way up while we were driving, I had to keep my eyes closed because I was just feeling so sick. But luckily, once we stopped the car and started walking, I started to feel better. And then another day we went up the mountains. We took the funicular. We had to take a couple of different rides to go up, and then we walked the rest of the path on foot. And we were above the clouds, and the scenery was just like from the moon. It was all grey stone or rock. I guess that's the Dolomite rock. I'm not sure. And we got some awesome pictures of the socks. Also of the wrap, but I especially love the sock photos that we took. Yes, and then what else did we do? We looked around in the neighboring villages and ate so good food. I don't think I've ever had so good food in my life before. Simple, but so delicious from local ingredients. And on our last day in the Dolomites, we went to this little village called Mezzano. I think Mezzano or something like that. I'm so sorry, I can't remember the names. And it was a village where people had done this beautiful artwork out of stacked wood. Just mind-blowing, and it was everywhere. They had this map. We got the map from the tourist info, and they had marked all the wood art on the map, and we walked around and took some more pictures from there. And it's also a village where we went to earlier, to this little weaving studio called Arteler, and I got some fabric from there, hand-woven fabric. They had so many different kinds. I could have bought so many things. They had ready-made clothes out of this fabric. And this is what I got for myself. It's this, I think it's like a peacock blue with this hot pink stripes and a little bit of herringbone patterning, and the other side of the fabric is a little bit different. Here on one end there's less of the pink, and I think I'm going to make some kind of shirt for me, and this is all silk, just beautiful. And I was going to buy this fabric, but the owner gave it for me as a gift, which is just amazing. I just couldn't believe it. It's all silk and it's hand woven. It's priceless. I would have been so happy to pay even more than what they asked for, but they wouldn't have it, so it's a precious memory and precious fabric, and I'm going to make something at my sewing class out of this. And I noticed when I had all these stacked, I noticed that these go quite nicely together. So that's that. And then after the Dolomites we traveled south to Verona, and we stayed there a couple of days until Tizzy had to go back to work, and I had one more day, one more night in the city before I traveled back home. And the ride from the Dolomites to Verona was just so steaming hot because Tizzy's air conditioning in the car had broken, and I think the highest temperature that we had during the car trip was 29 degrees. It was just, it was too much. But we made it. We arrived to the city of Verona in the evening. It was just beautiful. We parked the car up on the hill where the castle is, and our Airbnb was quite close to that, and it was a spectacular view when we got out of the car. You could see all the city and the river Adige, which was so much fun and so strange to see the river in real life. That gave name to my socks. And we looked around in the city during those days that we stayed there. We went to different churches which were full of amazing artwork and mosaic floors and beautiful painted walls and ceilings and arches and columns, and all different kinds of stone that they used. Rosso Verona, the red stone, and some other, and they had used just like normal looking bricks that they had put in place in such a beautiful way that created different kinds of patterns. It was such an overload of inspiration everywhere in the city. It was just amazing. Hot, but amazing. And we had a really nice Airbnb over there. And a great experience in all. Just wonderful. More wonderful food. And then on the last night when I was alone in the city, I went out for dinner in the evening. And I went to this restaurant. They had outdoor seating. I asked for a table for one, and the waiter showed me to a table which was right next to a couple's table. And there was this couple sitting already there, and I think we were all feeling a bit awkward sitting next to each other and at first. And then after a while, the lady from the next table started talking with me, and we had a really nice conversation with the couple. They were actually from Britain. The lady was from England, and her husband was from Scotland, and they had lived in Australia for over 10 years. And because I've been to Australia for quite a long time, well, 6 months in my past, we had so many things to chat about, and they were very interested in hearing about Finland. It turned out to be a really nice dinner after all, but it felt a bit awkward at first for me, especially being a shy Finn who doesn't know how to start a conversation. Yeah, so that was really nice. And on my last day in Verona, I went to see the local yarn shop, and I got some local yarn, even though I think this is not probably the nicest yarn there is. The spinning is not probably the best you can, but I wanted to support a local business, and it was partly hand dyed and partly natural. It is Bronya wool from local breed, Bronya sheep, and I got a few skeins of this natural white, and then these two which are naturally dyed. And this is Lana Al Pascolo, I think, is the yarn dyer's brand. And this is about DK weight. Although it feels, because it's so loosely plied, I think it feels more like a sport weight. I'm sure that I will come up with something that I can use it for. I really like the colors. Beautiful purple, and this is dyed with cochineal, and this I think is madder dyed. Some other things that I bought for myself as a souvenir. I wanted to get something local, so I bought these two notebooks just for writing down ideas, sketching. They are these with points instead of lines, and they are Fabriano notebooks, which are made in Italy. And I also got this really cool pen, which is also Fabriano pen. It's actually a builder's pen. It's got all the measurements, like a ruler here. There's centimeters and inches, and I don't know what these other measurements are. And then there is the tip is for your phone screen. And then there is this, I forget what it's called, so that you can see whether something is like this, like this and not like this. Oh my goodness, I don't know what it's called. Anyway, you probably know what I mean. And then on top of that, if you screw the top off, there's a screwdriver with two different ends here. Very small one, which is actually a nice size for if you have to tighten up the screws on your glasses or on your sewing machine or something else very small. It's probably about 1.5 millimeters wide. Really cool pen. I'm so happy I bought it. And I like the color as well. So those were my souvenirs from Italy. Oh my goodness, I think this is going to be a long episode. I'm so sorry about that, but maybe you can watch this in 2 different sections if it feels too long. I still have a couple of things that I want to share with you. It's been a while since my last episode, so I have a lot of things to tell. So, as I haven't had any logical order in this episode, I will just show you the rest that I have here. I have sewn a couple of things during this summer. When it was too hot to knit, I sewed a little bit. It was almost too hot to sew as well, but I felt like I needed to create something. So I made a couple of dresses. First of all, this one that I'm wearing is just it's a jersey dress. I will put a photo here, me wearing it. It's some fabric that I bought maybe over a year ago. Really nice quality. I think this is a Finnish fabric. I forget the name already. It's more like a beach dress or something to wear at home, I think, because it's so colorful. And I used a pattern from one of the Ottobre woman magazines where they have these women's patterns. Originally it was a t-shirt, but I lengthened it to be a dress. And it's really easy just to, throw on and you're done. You don't have to worry about anything, and it doesn't really get wrinkled, which is also great for traveling. And it's been good for the hot weather that we've had. And then another one is this one, which is really wrinkled. It's been in my suitcase. Don't you just love it when at an Airbnb there's a washing machine and on the last day of your trip you can wash all your clothes and bring them home and just put them back in to your closet? That's what I had in Verona. So it's been, after the washing, it's been in my suitcase. So that's why it's so wrinkled. This is just a very basic sleeveless linen dress that I made out of some linen fabric that I had for years. I first washed it because that's what I always do, and I always recommend that you do, because most fabrics tend to shrink a little bit in the first wash. So in order to get a garment that fits you correctly, you have to wash the fabric before you cut them. And with this one I also put it in the dryer because I wanted to soften it. And I love the way linen feels after it has been in the dryer. It's so soft, and it also gives the linen a bit more, I don't know how to describe it, but it changes the surface. It's not wrinkly, but it looks like a little bit bubbly. So that's what I did first before cutting, and then I used all of the fabric that I had. It wasn't a big piece, so it is as long as I could do it, and it's as wide as I could do it, and I could just barely squeeze in my size out of it. I used my own pattern, which I've done in my own measurements, and then it was for a top, so I also had to lengthen it to make a dress, and I used a store-bought dress that I like as a guide to determine how wide the hem would be, and it turned out that it was just about the width of the fabric. I shared the progress on my Instagram stories when I was doing this, and I got really many comments and a lot of feedback from it, that you liked seeing the process of me sewing this. So I just draw the pattern on chalk on the fabric. I decided to put darts in the back because I don't like the bagginess that I usually get because of how my back is. So it's more flattering when I have the darts. And I was not very keen on making a facing for this because I wanted to be a very lightweight and suitable for hot weather, which we had then. And also I find it that quite often when you have a facing in your handmade garments, in the wash they get really wrinkled and you have to iron them all the time, and I didn't want to do that, especially because I love the way the linen looks after the dryer. So instead I decided to use this bias tape, some really old brown bias tape that I had. I think I actually have bought it from a second-hand shop years and years back. And I love the way it turned out. It makes a really nice, neat finish. And you don't have to use interfacing, or at least I didn't. You have to be a little bit careful though not to stretch the parts that are cut in bias. And actually when this first was finished, I thought that I had stretched a little bit. It didn't look that nice. But then I put it back in the wash and in the dryer. And because the bias tape hadn't been washed earlier, it shrunk a little bit and it pulled back, so that I think now it is just perfect. And what else? Here on the shoulders, where maybe in this one it wouldn't have been necessary because it's such a short part, pardon me, but if you have a longer, and especially if you have a stretchy material like this jersey, it's really important to have something non-stretchy in the shoulder seams. So in here it's been top stitched, so you can't really see it, but I have done it also in this one just in case. It's also top stitched so that you can't really see it, but you can probably see a little bit of gray in here. So I've used this little strip that I've cut in bias of this organza fabric, some curtain fabric that I had lying around, something that doesn't stretch, and when you cut it in bias and then you iron it so that you stretch all the stretch there is and iron it, it sort of stays, it becomes a non-stretch piece. And then when you sew that's really thin, so it doesn't add any bulk on your shoulders, and it's really a good way to prevent the shoulder seams from stretching. So that's what I did here. And in the hem I just folded it twice and top stitched it. I think that's all I have to say about this dress. And lately I've been really into wearing linen, and I've been trying to find online shops where to purchase nice quality linen for not too much money. But I'm not sure yet where to get it. I think at least in Finland linen tends to be quite expensive, and sometimes I'm not ready to buy expensive fabrics for some reason, even though I do appreciate the quality. And yeah, well, I guess I've been buying so much yarn lately that I just wanted to save some money, and I didn't get any. But anyway, linen is just really beautiful fabric and perfect for hot weather. Wow, that was a lot of talk about one dress. Then finally I have one work in progress that I'm going to share with you. I started working on the Lotta dress from the latest Linen magazine, and I'm using this yarn, Jill Draper Makes Stuff Mohonk yarn in the shell colorway, which is Cormo wool, and I got this from Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year, and I think it's perfect for this project. So if you don't know, Lotta is a dress, a tunic dress with this little twisted stitch detail at the top around the collar, with raglan sleeves. It's a short sleeve dress, and then in the front you have a quite wide pleat, so it's a bit hard to show right now, but it will be sewn behind, so you will have a pleat here in the front. I don't know if you can see that. It's hard to show because it's on the cable, but there will be a pleat going down from here. And from now on, now that I've gone past this twisted stitch pattern and I'm on the hem, I will have to knit 65 centimeters of stockinette stitch, which is a lot of stockinette, but I think this will be a good one to take with me on knit nights and other social situations where your concentration isn't greatest. So I haven't been knitting on this that much. I had this in Jyväskylä with me, which was when I made the most progress on it, I think. There's a lateral braid here where the reverse stockinette stitch ends, and that took forever to make, but it looks beautiful. And at first it looked really loose in the beginning, so I had to fix it. I had to pull tight the first few, maybe 15 centimeters of the lateral braid because it looked really sloppy. But now it looks okay, I think, and it's really a beautiful detail. And if you've never done the braid before, and what I learned from making this is that I was trying to think that it has to be loose. I was consciously trying not to knit too tight, because I thought that if it was too tight and it was going vertically here, then it would be really uncomfortable to wear. But apparently it is, at least for my knitting, it was loose enough already. So I wouldn't have had to make it any looser than just my normal knitting. Next time I know. So that one will get finished slowly, I think, whenever I have a knit night or something to go to. But it will be a nice piece in my wardrobe when it's finished. And then finally, and I promise this is really the final thing, I wanted to share the new Taitolehti magazine that I received. I've shown you this magazine, the previous issues before. There are many interesting articles which I haven't read yet. I have just quickly browsed through this, but there were some nice patterns again, and I'm going to show you one which I loved. Absolutely loved this one. It's the Rai Rai sweater by Leeni Hoimela. She is a designer and yarn dyer from Finland. I've knit her pattern before, at least one pattern, and I really like this sweater. It's not available on Ravelry, at least not yet. I'm not sure if it will be, maybe in a year's time or something, not sure. You can find it on Ravelry, but you can't buy the pattern from there, and it's only in Finnish. It's a yoke sweater with all different colored stripes, and I think it's so simple and elegant, but still fun. And I think this will go to my knitting list, which is a long one. But maybe one day I will have time for this one. Wow, I think that's all. I'm out of breath again, just like up in the Dolomites. Go check my new patterns in Ravelry. The Dolomite wrap is there already, and the Adige socks will be there in a few days, maybe next week. And I would really like it if you could click on the little heart on the pattern write a comment so that other knitters would find them more easily, because that makes it climb up the hot right now list. And if you purchase the pattern, I really hope that you like knitting them and also wearing them, and that they bring you joy. I think that's all for now, and I hope that my next episode will come a bit sooner, so that I don't have to have this kind of marathon episode at once. I hope the weather is treating you well, that it has cooled down a bit for you if you are in the Northern Hemisphere, and if you're in the South, then stay warm. Happy knitting. See you next time. Bye.